Hello everyone and welcome to another Armageddon game. This one is from round 7 of this year's Norway Chess. It is Fabiano Caruana, the current leader of the tournament, against Gukesh, who is doing incredibly well in the tournament. So let's check it out. Their classical game ended in a draw after some 34 moves. It wasn't very eventful, also ended fairly quickly. So let's see what happened in this one. They repeated the opening up to move 7, and then Fabi goes for a very rare move, or rather an incredibly rare move that was played against him in the candidates tournament by Richard Rapport. So this is what Fabi has prepared for Gukesh for the faster time format, that is the Armageddon. Fabi plays e4, we have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and the bishop to b5, going for the Ruy Lopez as they did in the classical game. We have knight to f6, the Berlin defense, d3, bishop to c5, and now bishop captures on c6. D captures, knight b to d2, we have bishop to e6, and now in their classical game, Fabi just castled here. This is the main move in this line, but here we have pawn to h3, the move Rapport played against Fabi in the candidates tournament. So knight to d7, you need to defend the e5 pawn, and in case some of you are wondering why not just capture the pawn right away, well, there's always this queen to d4 move. I'm sure you guys already know this, but just in case. So like I said, h3, knight to d7 guarding the e5 pawn, and knight to b3 now attacking the bishop. And in that game, in the candidates that we mentioned, Fabi versus Rapport, or Rapport versus Fabi, Fabi played bishop to b6, but here we have bishop back to e7 by Gukesh, knight to a5 going after the b5 pawn, and there is one game where bishop to b4 check was played between Robin Swinkels and sorry, let me just check real quickly. I think it was a Max Warmerdam between these two gentlemen. It was played in 2016, and Warmerdam was able to win that game. But here we have queen to c8, and it is now as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So here, pawn to b3, you want to develop the bishop. Also, the knight is coming to c4 at some point, then maybe to e3, then maybe to f5, and so on. So the knight is a bit weird on a5, but not for long. Both players castles here, castles, and now pawn to c5. Very nicely done. We have pawn to a4, and now pawn to b6, chasing away the knight, knight to c4, and now pawn to f6. We have knight to h4, going for the f5 square, and rook to d8, nicely aligning the rook with the queen. So Fabi develops it, queen to f3, and knight to b8 now. Now the knight is coming to c6, also one of the reasons why you really wanted to advance this double c pawn. Queen to g3, and now knight to c6. We have pawn to f4. Fabi manages to get this central breakthrough in, but now knight to d4, putting pressure on the c2 pawn. We have rook to f2, and now king to h8, not allowing the king to remain on the same file as the queen. F captures on e5. We have bishop captures on c4 first, and now b captures on c4. If you're wondering why not grab another pawn while you're at it, because it comes with tempo, you are threatening checkmate. Well, the problem is then you, after, let's say, captures and captures, then after the knight moves, the bishop can come to d4, the bishop can come to e5, and it doesn't look like you've achieved all that much. And also you can forcefully play this with knight to e2 check. Also the rook on a1 would hang. That's only, some of the problems. So b captures on c4 right away by Fabi. F captures on e5, and now knight to f5, putting pressure on the bishop, on the knight, and of course threatening checkmate here. So bishop f6, stopping that, and now bishop to g5, removing the defender of checkmate. Bishop captures on g5, queen captures, and now queen to d7. Now the queen is defending against checkmate. Rook a to f1, Fabi doubles up on the f file, and now rook to f8. We have king to h2, and now knight to e6, attacking Fabi's queen, queen back to g3, and now knight to f4. We have queen to g4, and now rook to f6, preparing to bring the other rook into the game. Knight to e3, offering a queen trade, but of course Gukesh not interested. He likes his active position. Queen to d4, knight to f5, again attacking the queen, and queen back to d7. Gukesh happily repeats, because a draw in Armageddon equals a win. We have pawn to g3. Fabi has to look for ways to, create some imbalances in the position. Knight to e6, and now knight to e3, offering a trade of rooks, and the Gukesh says, all right, but on my terms. Rook a to f8, rook captures on f6, we have rook captures on f6, and all the rooks come off the board. Captures and captures, and now pawn to h4. At least Fabi found a way to continue pushing. We have queen to f7, and now king to g2. Knight to d5, although it looks like a very nice move, after c6, there's really no good square for this knight. You have to go back. King to g2. Now Fabi wants to bring his king all the way to the queen side so he can start advancing those king side pawns without compromising the safety of his king. So here, pawn to c6, king to f2, and now queen to g8, offering a queen trade. Fabi declines now. Queen to f7, and now pawn to h5, hoping to get pawn to h6 in, so Gukesh stops this, but now the h6 pawn is also a target. So queen to g4, preparing knight to f5 to go after the pawn, king to h7, and knight to f5. We have knight to g7, and here Fabi traded the knights. Knight captures on g7. Even there was merit in maybe at least considering knight to d6, because you take away all of these squares from the black queen, and you don't really want to allow the queen to infiltrate via queen to g6. And then if queen captures on h5, okay, you temporarily give up a pawn, but look at this, captures, and knight to c8 now. Now you will win some queenside pawns, let's say a6, knight captures on b6, knight to g7, and now knight to d7, going after the f6 pawn and the c5 pawn. You're going to win another one, probably black will defend the f6 pawn, and now this, you're up a pawn in a king, pawn, and knight endgame. You should be winning this without much trouble. So instead, knight captures on g7 was played. We have queen captures on g7, and now again queen f5 check. We have king to h8. Fabi prefers to play the queen and pawn endgame instead of the knight and pawn endgame. Queen to c8 check, king to h7, and he grabs the c6 pawn. So queen captures on c6, queen to e7, and king to f3 now. We have king to g7, queen to c8, and now queen to f7. Gukesh just waiting to see what Fabi will do, and Fabi finds a way to move forward. King to g4 also defends the h5 pawn, which is very nice. King to h7, now comes king to h4, sidestepping any and all checks. King to g7, and now king to g4, repeating once but not twice. Now queen to f5 with check. The real way to play this, and this is winning for Fabi, is queen to c6. Point is that whatever black plays and you don't really care about any checks, then you can just go up the board. But queen to e7, for example, queen to d5 will come, and then once you repeat, or queen to g7 check, doesn't really matter, just king to f5. And now again, if you repeat queen to g5, king just goes to e6, and then you will start gobbling up all the pawns. And if queen to e7, you will just play queen to e6, you've won all the important squares, and now you win the game. But Fabi incredibly low on time, and in Armageddon, yes, you do get increment, but only after move 40, and you only get 1 second increment per move. So it's basically enough to make a move, hit the clock, and then instantly, it's very exhausting. So queen to f5 with check, king to g7, now comes king to f3. Fabi will first hide his king all the way to the queen side before committing to something else, and it also doesn't require him to waste a lot of time. So queen e8, king to e3, queen f7, g4 now, queen to e8, king to d2, queen f7, and queen to c8 now, queen to e7, king to c3, queen to f7, and king to b3. And the white king will be safe here. Queen to e7, and now queen to f5. Now Fabi is confident that he will be able to push this for a win. Queen to e8, king to a3 even, and now pawn to a5. We have king to back to b3, queen to f7, and queen to c8. We have queen to e7, queen to c6, and now queen to d8. We have queen to e6, Fabi winning a lot of important squares here, but now queen to d4. And here Gukesh finds an incredible way of how to save the game if Fabi doesn't take his chance at actually winning. So queen e7 check, king to g8, and here Fabi makes an incredible mistake, especially for Fabi, I mean, who is a human calculating machine. He just plays queen captures on f6, and it's not a move. I mean, of course, he had a second on the clock, and he has to continue making moves in order not to lose on time. But in order to win this, you have to play queen to e8 check, and then you will pick up the f6 pawn, but it will be with tempo. For example, king to g7, queen to g6 check. Doesn't really matter where the king goes, as the f6 pawn will fall with check, and then you continue with a win. But even if Fabi knew this, he probably wouldn't be able to win, because the win is very elusive. Queen captures on f6 was played. Now comes queen to a1, and here Gukesh has either a perpetual or a checkmate. It's quite beautiful. Queen to g6 check, king to f8, queen captures on h6 with check, and now king to g8. Gukesh again runs into a losing position. The way to win this was king to f7. Now the point is, after a few checks are given, king to e7, queen to g7 check, doesn't really matter, king to d8, you will either continue checking the black king and the black king will just go back and forth, or you will advance the pawn finally, and then queen to b1 is a draw. It's a draw because if you go to c3, queen to b4 is checkmate, so you have to go to a3, and then it's just a queen a1 to b1 to a1, and you continue checking the white king. This is now a draw. However, king to g8 was played. Now Fabi is once again winning. Queen to g6 with check, king to h8, and now queen to f6 with check, king to g8, and now queen to g5. Again, Fabi doesn't find the real idea, but the real idea is so elusive that it's incredibly difficult to figure out how to actually play it. Even if you had all the time in the world, how would you win this position? Feel free to pause the video. Don't try to find a specific move. Try to find the idea of how this game should be won. So have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being a true master of the endgame. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is basically something, well, any move order that will allow your queen to get to the b5 square. You have to bring your queen to b5 and then you are winning. For example, queen to e6 check, king to f8. Queen to c8 with check, doesn't really matter where the king goes, king g7, queen to d7 with check. Now you've nicely connected to check with the b5 square, and once the king makes any move, queen to b5, and now you are winning. Point is that now after queen to b1 check, you don't have to worry about king to c3, as the queen b4 will not be checkmate like we've shown in the other line. And here you don't have checks. If this, you go here, no more checks, and if queen to e1 check, you go to b2, again, no more checks. So that's how you win this. Now you're just up too many pawns, and of course completely winning. However, queen to g5 check was played, king to h8, and here Fabi played queen to d8 with check, and his position is still winning. Yeah, if he can remaneuver his queen over to b5. The problem is he took more than a second to play queen to d8 and hit the clock, and he was in this position on move 71 that Fabiano Caruana lost on time, and that means that Gukesh wins this encounter. So brilliant stuff. Gukesh neutralized Fabi in the classical section without any problems, and here in Armageddon, Fabi just wasted too much time, and then in the end, I mean, okay, he did get the increment, but you have 1 second increment, and if you're down to 1 second on the clock, I mean, that's hard to play even online, when you're just pre-moving. I mean, 1 second is not a lot. But actually physically moving it, hitting the clock, and just watching the board, I mean, it will take you more than 1 second. You have to have like a like the mindset of being in shock to be able to play something like this. So it wasn't possible here, and Gukesh just wins this very nicely. So yeah, very nicely done by him. If you guys are interested, here are the encounters. Fabi lost to Gukesh in Armageddon. Wesley defeated Norway in Classical. Hikaru defeated Shahryar in Armageddon. Magnus defeated Alireza in Armageddon. We've seen both of the games. And Anish defeated Tari in Classical Chess. So still no luck for Tari. And these are the standings of the tournament. Fabiano still in first place with 14.5, and Hikaru in second place with 12.5. And we might be getting a super clash in the tournament because Fabi and Hikaru are playing in the final round. So if this remains the points 14.5, 12.5, Hikaru will have an opportunity to beat Fabi in the final round in the classical chess to overtake him and win the tournament. Then Wesley with 10.5, Gukesh and Danish with 10, Alireza with 9.5, Magnus with 9, Shahryar with 9, Nodribek with 6, and Tari with 3. And the incredible Magnus again won all of his games unless the one again with Fabi. It's just that he won all of them with Armageddon. So Magnus did not win a single game here in Classical, and that's why he is in 7th place currently. And here are the live ratings if you guys are interested. Not a lot is happening. Fabiano still number 1 as he was number 2 as he was in the previous one. Magnus losing a lot of rating points because he's only getting draws here. Hikaru up on +8, Anish +3, Wesley +4, MVL -4, Gukesh +3, and Wei Yi playing some other tournament also on +6. So not a lot happening, but you know, there is something happening. So yeah, that's the game and a little bit of extra info from round 7 of this year's Norway Chess. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other games that you would like me to show, use hashtag suggestion, or maybe from some other tournaments, as today is the rest today, we do have some time to catch up. So, you know, do use hashtag suggestion. I always look at all of your suggestions. So yeah, once again, really hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Michal Sakarias, David Gasparian, Brandon Fukuda, Ricky Johnson, and Farid Darabi Sanich for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this wonderful tournament until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.